National Electrical Code Section 312.5 states that cable trays, auxiliary gutters, and wireways shall not be located above equipment that may produce excessive heat, flammable vapors, or liquids unless the cables enclosed in such raceways are specifically approved for the conditions. Section 408.3b states that disconnect switches for circuits and equipment shall be readily accessible. Where the disconnect switch is mounted on a vertical surface, the center of the grip of the operating handle of the switch shall not be more than 6 feet 7 inches or 2.1 meters above the floor or working platform. While National Electrical Code Section 312.5 prohibits raceways above equipment producing excessive heat, vapors, or liquids, it does not specifically mention disconnect switches. However, National Electrical Code Section 408.3b requires disconnect switches to be readily accessible, which may conflict with placing raceways above the fuse line. NFPA 70 Section 320.1 recommends that electrical equipment be positioned to avoid energized parts being above or behind personnel working on or near energized equipment. While there is no specific National Electrical Code reference prohibiting raceways above disconnect switches, it is generally recommended to avoid this practice for safety reasons. Raceways above disconnect switches may hinder accessibility and create potential hazards for personnel working on or near the equipment. In more detail, let's consider the implications of these National Electrical Code sections and the recommended practices. Firstly, National Electrical Code Section 312.5 addresses the placement of raceways in relation to equipment that generates excessive heat, flammable vapors, or liquids. This section primarily aims to prevent the degradation of cable insulation and the potential for fire or explosion hazards. While it doesn't directly address disconnect switches, the underlying principle of avoiding hazardous conditions near electrical equipment is relevant. Secondly, National Electrical Code Section 408.3b focuses on the accessibility of disconnect switches. The height restriction for the operating handle is designed to ensure that personnel can easily and safely operate the switch. Placing raceways above the fuse line or disconnect switch could obstruct access to the handle, especially for taller individuals or when using tools. Now, let's talk about NFPA 70 Section 320.1a, which provides a broader recommendation regarding the positioning of electrical equipment. This standard emphasizes the importance of preventing energized parts from being above or behind personnel working on or near the equipment. This is to minimize the risk of accidental contact with energized components and to improve visibility during maintenance and troubleshooting. Consider a scenario where a raceway is positioned directly above a disconnect switch's fuse line. If a worker needs to replace a fuse, the raceway could impede their movement and create an awkward or unsafe working posture. Additionally, the raceway might cast a shadow, making it difficult to see the fuse and its connections clearly. Furthermore, the presence of a raceway above the disconnect could complicate the use of testing equipment, such as voltage detectors or multimeters. The worker might need to maneuver the equipment around the raceway, increasing the risk of accidental contact with energized parts. In terms of practical recommendations, it's generally advisable to maintain a clear zone around disconnect switches and other electrical equipment that requires regular maintenance or operation. This clear zone should be free from obstructions, including raceways, piping, and other equipment. The specific dimensions of the clear zone may vary depending on the type of equipment and the working space requirements specified in the National Electrical Code. However, as a general guideline, a minimum of 3 feet of clearance in front of the equipment is often recommended. When designing electrical installations, it's important to carefully consider the placement of raceways and other components to ensure that they do not interfere with the accessibility and safety of electrical equipment. This may involve rerouting raceways, using alternative wiring methods, or relocating equipment to provide adequate clearance. In some cases, it may be necessary to consult with a qualified electrical engineer to determine the best solution. It's also worth noting that some local jurisdictions may have additional requirements or interpretations regarding the placement of raceways near electrical equipment. Therefore, it's always a good idea to check with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. In summary, While there is no specific National Electrical Code reference that explicitly prohibits raceways above disconnect switches, it's generally recommended to avoid this practice for safety and accessibility reasons. By following the guidelines in National Electrical Code Section 408.3b and NFPA 70E Section 320.1a, and by maintaining a clear zone around electrical equipment, you can help to create a safer and more efficient working environment for electrical personnel. It is also important to maintain proper documentation of electrical installations, including detailed drawings and specifications. This documentation should clearly show the location of all raceways, disconnect switches, and other electrical equipment. This documentation can be valuable for future maintenance, troubleshooting, and upgrades. Furthermore, it is essential to provide adequate training to electrical personnel on the proper procedures for working on your electrical equipment. This training should cover topics such as lockout/tagout procedures, personal protective equipment, and safe work practices. By investing in training, you can help to ensure that electrical personnel have the knowledge and skills necessary to perform their jobs safely and effectively. In conclusion, the placement of raceways near disconnect switches is a critical consideration in electrical installations. While the National Electrical Code does not explicitly prohibit raceways above disconnect switches, it's generally recommended to avoid this practice for safety and accessibility reasons. By following the guidelines in National Electrical Code Section 408.3b and NFPA 70E Section 320.1a, maintaining a clear zone around electrical equipment, and providing adequate training to electrical personnel, you can help to create a safer and more efficient working environment. Remember that electrical safety is a shared responsibility. By working together, we can help to prevent electrical accidents and injuries. Always consult with a qualified electrical professional when designing or installing electrical systems. They can help you to ensure that your installations meet all applicable codes and regulations and that they are safe for personnel to operate and maintain. In addition to the above considerations, it's also important to think about the potential for future changes or additions to the electrical system. Will there be a need to add more circuits or equipment in the future? If so, it's wise to plan for this by providing adequate space for future raceways and equipment. This can help to avoid the need for costly and disruptive modifications later on. Another important factor to consider is the environment in which the electrical equipment will be located. Will the equipment be exposed to moisture, dust, or corrosive substances? If so, it's important to select raceways and equipment that are specifically designed for these conditions. This can help to prevent premature failure of the equipment and to ensure its long-term reliability. Furthermore, it's crucial to perform regular inspections and maintenance of electrical systems. This includes checking for loose connections, damaged insulation, and other signs of wear and tear. By identifying and correcting these problems early on, you can help to prevent more serious issues from developing. During inspections, pay close attention to the condition of raceways and their supports. Make sure that they are securely mounted and that there are no signs of corrosion or damage. If any problems are found, take steps to repair or replace the affected components as soon as possible. In addition to visual inspections, it's also important to perform electrical testing on a regular basis. This can help to identify potential problems that may not be visible to the naked eye. Common electrical tests include insulation resistance testing, current resistance testing, and circuit breaker testing. The frequency of electrical testing should be based on the type of equipment, the environment in which it is located, and the recommendations of the equipment manufacturer. Finally, it's essential to keep accurate records of all electrical inspections, maintenance, and testing. These records can be valuable for tracking the performance of electrical systems over time and for identifying potential trends or patterns. This information can then be used to improve the reliability and safety of electrical installations. In conclusion, the placement of raceways near disconnect switches is a complex issue that requires careful consideration of various factors. By following the guidelines in the National Electrical Code and other relevant standards, maintaining a clear zone around electrical equipment, providing adequate training to electrical personnel, and performing regular inspections and maintenance, you can help to create a safer and more efficient working environment. Always consult with a qualified electrical professional when designing, installing, or maintaining electrical systems. They can provide valuable expertise and guidance to ensure that your installations meet all applicable codes and regulations and that they are safe for personnel to operate and maintain. In addition to the safety and accessibility considerations discussed above, it's also important to consider the aesthetics of electrical installations. While functionality and safety are paramount, it's also desirable to create installations that are visually appealing and that blend in with the surrounding environment. This can be achieved by carefully planning the layout of raceways and equipment and by using aesthetically pleasing materials and finishes. For example, raceways can be concealed behind walls or ceilings, or they can be painted to match the surrounding surfaces. Equipment can be selected that is compact and unobtrusive, and it can be arranged in a way that is both functional and visually appealing. In some cases, it may be necessary to work with an architect or designer to achieve the desired aesthetic results. They can provide valuable insights and suggestions on how to integrate electrical installations into the overall design of a building or facility. Furthermore, it's important to consider the impact of electrical installations on the environment. Whenever possible, use energy-efficient equipment and lighting to reduce energy consumption. Select materials and finishes that are environmentally friendly and that minimize the release of harmful chemicals. Properly dispose of waste materials, such as used batteries and fluorescent lamps, to prevent pollution. By taking these steps, you can help to create electrical installations that are both functional and sustainable. In addition to the above considerations, it's also important to stay up to date on the latest developments in electrical technology and codes. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, with new products, techniques, and regulations being introduced on a regular basis. By staying informed, you can ensure that your electrical installations are safe, efficient, and compliant with all applicable requirements. There are many resources available to help you stay informed, including industry publications, trade shows, and continuing education courses. Make use of these resources to expand your knowledge and skills. Finally, remember that electrical safety is a continuous process. It requires ongoing vigilance, attention to detail, and a commitment to following safe work practices. By making safety a priority in all of your electrical activities, you can help to prevent accidents and injuries and to create a safer working environment for yourself and others. In conclusion, the placement of raceways near disconnect switches is a multifaceted issue that demands careful consideration of numerous factors. By adhering to the guidelines outlined in the National Electrical Code and other pertinent standards, maintaining a clear zone around electrical equipment, providing comprehensive training to electrical personnel, conducting regular inspections and maintenance, prioritizing aesthetics, minimizing environmental impact, staying abreast of technological advancements and code revisions, and fostering a culture of continuous safety, you can contribute to the creation of electrical installations that are not only functional and efficient, but also safe, sustainable, and visually appealing. Always seek the expertise of qualified electrical professionals when designing, installing, or maintaining electrical systems, as their knowledge and guidance are invaluable in ensuring that your installations meet all applicable codes and regulations and that they are safe for personnel to operate and maintain. Remember that electrical safety is a collective responsibility, and by working together, we can create a safer and more productive working environment for all.